Hello and welcome to the Cluster API provider for AWS meeting for March 3rd, 2025. Just letting everyone know we abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct. In short, be nice to each other. Um, Also, we like to use the raise hands feature within Zoom. So I will have that open and keeping an eye on it. Um, and yeah, so let's take a look at our agenda here. The first few items. There's an action item I saw from um, the February meeting, and Richard's not here. He says he's joining a little bit late, so we might come back to this. But um, there's one major blocker PR I know that needs to get reviewed. I had some comments that hopefully it could change. Um, Hopefully there's some small changes. But other than that, I think that's the only thing from the last meeting. So since Richard is not here, I'm going to jump ahead to Julio.
Yay.
You have a few questions.
Yeah, just that rewriting the quick start docs and the new release kind of broke it. And I'd like to check what versions should we set there because I think latest might not be a good idea because that breaks often. So for me, it seems that Kubernetes 1.30.5 is the latest that I got running and working. Not sure about cluster AWS ADM as well. I'm guessing that latest should be fine, but again, on the new Kubernetes version, I get this error regarding the difference of the master tag being renamed to control plane. And in the guide, it's actually 000 as documented. So I think the tag generation is not working properly. But
So I'm gonna stop and ask a question real
no
quick.
worries.
So you said, um, so we're talking about latest versions. So is this with master or main of Kappa or the latest released version?
The the thing is that the Kickstart guide is currently the same. I'm trying to get one written just for Kappa, so we don't
Mhm.
have the clutter from the other providers. But I'm trying to figure out which versions should work. So in the guide, there is no indication of the Kubernetes version. So the latest one I got working was 135, but I saw that the new AMIs got listed. So I'm not sure if we should update that. Yeah. Uh, if
So,
you if you'd like to open the our book, the guide on cluster AWS provider,
so
I
one
can
thing,
show you what I'm talking about
yeah.
more easily. Yeah, like the book link on the documentation, like documentation book.
I think that's the
That's,
same page I'm on.
huh. Oh, okay. So getting started guide, the second link be on the nav bar just below introduction. Yeah, that's the thing I'm trying to get right.
Hmm.
And on see the curl command there for cluster cuddle that mentions version 1.9.5 in download for ARM below. Yeah, so that kind of works. But if you go down to the cluster AWS command for the cluster API curl command right below, yeah, that one. So on the AWS tab, you're there. Oh, you got it. 271. For me, it shows zero for some reason. It shows version 000. Perhaps I
Is
didn't build that right.
is that locally that it's showing you 000?
Yeah, on a code spaces environment. Yeah,
Okay,
or
yeah. I don't know where this is pulled from, but
it's a generated tag. There's a
yeah.
log tag. Yeah, but
Yeah.
okay. If that should be latest, it's good. I can check later why that didn't work from our repo if I copy that file. But on the scrolling down on the cluster cutoff init comment right there a bit more. Yeah, that's the part. See, it shows 1.32.0 as Kubernetes version, and that's not working properly, at least for me.
Okay. So when you do 132.0, that's when you get um
Yeah,
this
uh,
error.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like, does that sound right? That should work? Uh,
It probably should work, but I bet we have not migrated the annotations we put on nodes, is my guess. Which honestly, I think this is a thing that happened over the course of several Kubernetes versions. So we're probably going to have to fix this in order to spin up with 130 and later. Um, actually, sorry, were you having you were you having this issue on 130 or with 132?
130,
130.
131 and 132.
Okay, so this this is probably something we're going to have to put a migration in for.
Okay.
Yeah. So broadly for I think speaking for myself, I think the goal should be we're working on the latest version of everything. Um, but that does require, keeping up to date with some values changing and things like that. So, right now Kappa is behind. I think part of that is we don't have a whole lot of folks who are just dedicated to Kappa at the moment. So that makes it a challenge to keep up. Um,
Totally.
but I think you're identifying with this here. That's probably something we're going to want to have to fix before 2.8 uh, if we want to be compatible with 131 plus.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep trying to get it working and check which versions are the latest known to work and submit a review of that with explicit versions on the documentation, probably variable for each instead of the generated values from latest so that we don't break the docs accidentally, perhaps. That's
Yeah.
the major thing. Yeah. And that's pretty much it for me. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Richard, you had your hand up.
Sorry, I was late. I noticed you mentioned that you're trying to use 1.32 as well. Do we even have any AMIs published for 132, or did you cover that before I joined?
Actually, there are some AMIs for that published, but that wasn't me.
I think Damiano might have done that.
I published
Nice.
the 131 ones, not the 132, if I
Uh,
remember
That's what I
Oh,
correctly.
thought. Yeah.
interesting.
and let
Okay,
me
so
run the
yeah,
command.
maybe that's part of it. Well, that wouldn't lead to the annotation being wrong, but um, yeah. So it sounds like we have not officially published 132 AMIs.
I guess you're getting that error anyway before it even gets anywhere near
Yeah.
provisioning a machine.
Well, if you run the command, I just did. And 1.30, yeah. Yeah, that's it. There is for 130.1, the 1.31, but not 32 yet.
Okay, you did the
Uh,
um, command that lists
some
the AMIs.
for Yeah, I'm not sure why that was documented like that, but
So what are you saying, Julio? That 131 is there, but not 132?
yeah. Well, 1.32 is documented but not listed.
Yeah,
131 is there are several, and 130 as well. But the
yeah.
last one I could get to work was 130.5.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
I think
problem
Yeah,
having this shared one, isn't it?
yeah, this is the shared cluster API book. So they've updated for 132. Um,
Mm. Ah, that's it. Yeah.
yeah. So I think this happens with Cappy releases when they bump their version, the book gets all the tags generated correctly for what they support. Um,
Hmm.
but
Cool.
yeah, as far as AMIs that we've built for this project, we're only up to 131 right now. So we probably want a similar type of logic, but decoupling from Cappy's um, version so that we our documents can be more accurate. Does that make sense?
yeah.
I can't tell if Julio froze or not. I think he might have. And he just disappeared. Richard, did you put your hand back
Oops.
up?
Sorry. My internet is
Yeah, it is.
lame today. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah, go ahead, Richard.
yeah, I've seen, when we talk about keeping like versions updated, especially when you
Yeah.
do a release. I know a number of projects I've seen in the past, they've used something like update CLI. So you can actually integrate it into your build pipeline and
Mm.
release pipeline, and it actually updates. You can do lots of things, but it can update documentation and update the tags to make sure that they are in sync with the latest, I guess, release. But we could also maybe, if we had a file somewhere that listed the Kubernetes versions maximum that we support, we could also get update CLI or something similar just to poke that into the docs automatically as part of the release process.
Cool. I'll take a look at that.
Okay, cool. Anything more on this topic?
No, I'll keep working on it. See you next meeting with some results, I hope.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to circle back now that you're here, Richard. So, talking with Damiano, I think we're pretty close to getting 2.8.0 out as well as 2.7.2. 2.7.2 had some backports that just merged this morning US time for Rosa. There were some changes that were pulled back there. I think the last thing, at least when we started the meeting, the last thing that was needed was this um, classic ELB fix. Rich, I had some comments because I was as I was looking at it, um, the way the secondary control plane load balancer is being validated, we shouldn't even allow it to be classic. So I think it's minor if we keep these code paths in. I don't know that they're gonna hurt, but it might give false impression that to future maintainers that we support that.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, agreed. Yeah, definitely. I'll remove them. I'll do that in after this meeting.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was the only thing I saw in there. Um, I think the rest of it looked pretty good to me. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, I think from there, um, I don't know if we'll have to investigate the cube 131 and the node annotation changing from master to control plane. But is anyone aware of anything else that is a showstopper for getting 2.8 out? Yeah, Damiano.
Yes, so there is one for
Sorry, Mohammed. Damiano raised his hand.
yeah, sorry guys, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, so not showstoppers. From a release standpoint, I think we are able to release as soon as the um, load balancer stuff is in, and supposedly this thing you're mentioning about annotations, Nolan. But yeah, I think those are the main blockers, like real blockers. Then we have a couple of things that folks have expressed a desire to have in before we cut the newest release. One is for the um, team of Mohammed, I think, and the other one is from I think from Suze, from Alex. They have
Okay.
expressed to get a bug fix in before the next release. I've added them to the milestone. So if you click on milestone next to, yep, that one.
Okay,
Uh,
cool. Thank you for adding this.
Horse. So you can see we have the ELB issue there, and then the bottom two are the ones I'm talking about,
Okay.
and then the one above. Not sure, Richard, what's the state of that, and if we need that in 2.8.
No, that one we can punt that to the next milestone.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, just because I saw it's whip, so I was wondering. Yeah, we might need to create a new one.
Yeah, we'll have to create the next. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Um, is that it that you had, Damiano?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
guess if we can prioritize getting reviews for these, like I reviewed the well, for the first one we have the PR up from Richard. ILGTM, I think Nolan you reviewed. Richard
Mhm.
said drop those two checks, and then I think yeah, Daniel wants to also take a look, but then we should be good to go. With the second one, I have LGTM, so it only needs an approval. I think is quite a trivial change to the API where we're adding some feature gates, so it's a couple of booleans, nothing major. And for the bottom one, I think it's a fix from Alex, and you Richard might have already taken a look, right?
Yeah, I had a brief look.
Yeah. It sounded. I had a brief look as well. It sounded reasonable. I might go back and add my review, but yeah. Other than that, I think those are the pending ones, I guess.
Okay, cool. Richard, you also had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just sort of circling back to the workout. Sorry, the annotation problem that
Hmm.
Mohammed got is. So that comes up as a warning, or is it a hard error now in 132? I was just curious because if it's just a warning, then that doesn't necessarily stop us doing 2.8, does it? But be curious as when I guess the first version that they started notifying as well, because if you could just update, remove the old one.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's do 131. That I don't see anything there. Nothing else there. I think we've changed this within OpenShift, but I don't know exactly when. Yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing anything for the annotation. Um, I'll take an action item to go double check the release notes and see what exactly the um, deprecation is on that so that we can decide whether that's in 2.8 or not, and at the very least file a bug for it. Ah, you found it. Maybe.
Yeah, it's funny if you've even got a note in there to say remove it.
Yeah, I think this has been a while in the coming. So, um, yeah, I will take an action item and look that up. Cool. And Mohammed, I noticed you put your hand down. Did you have what you needed answered?
No, it's just Damiano said it for the BR for the feature gate, and we also planning to have an like API added to Rosa
Okay.
that could be go to 2.8.1 in the future, or it has to be 2.9. Like,
Probably we would probably prefer that to be 2.9. But what's the API?
well, it's the networks. Remember when we discussed this cloud formation?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but
Gotcha.
it's just the work is still in progress, so
Okay.
it may come like maybe in 2 3 weeks.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah, we can take a look at that when it's ready.
yeah, okay, cool.
Cool. Thank you. All right. And then the last topic that's on the agenda, since we jumped around a little bit. Um, so we talked a little bit about AMIs in this meeting, whether they were present or not. Um, I think there's an issue for this. I'm sorry, I wrote this note before I looked it up. Um, we currently have a GitHub action to um, build the AMIs, and let's see, I think that's build and publish AMI with vars, maybe. Um, no, yeah. So maintainers are able to run this GitHub action with various input, um, which is useful in that we can do this. However, it would be great, and I realize we're going to need folks to actually implement this, but I think it would be very beneficial if we had some automation that automatically grabs these values and does the AMI build, because that's a manual maintenance thing that seems to catch us quite a bit. So I'm curious what people's thoughts are on that. I know, Richard, you made this action in Damiano. It looks like you've used it most recently. How difficult would it be to grab these values? Yeah, Richard?
Yeah, I guess we could automate it. It's just a bit of a pain because you do have to query and then you have to go down like the apt, repo and go, actually, this matches with that for, the CNI tools and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, we definitely could automate it. Yeah, I was conscious at the time it was when I did it, it was going to be manual because we needed a fix. But yeah, I agree. It's just a pain, isn't it? Even if we had a tool utility that then poked and then invoked the workflow remotely, that would
Mhm.
that would even help.
Or yeah, even
Um,
even another workflow that
yeah,
runs and collects this information. And then I don't know the GitHub Actions API super well, but I assume it could invoke another workflow.
yeah, yeah, it can do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Okay.
that this would be good. I don't think we actually have a an issue for automating the new build. We have
Okay.
one to, because this now is sort of related to this. We have another one that we need a workflow to delete the old AMIs. I've got the code to do that, but I haven't put it into a workflow because
Gotcha.
we got that. I guess we're not going to keep all AMIs forever. They are going to disappear.
Right. Aren't they automatic? I think part of the problem we ran into previously was they were getting automatically garbage collected. Can we rely on that, or do we want to make sure we just have a defined schedule for deleting?
Well, yeah. So we can rely on the TTL. That's sort of like the backstop,
Okay.
the ultimate thing. But I think probably ultimately we want to clean up based on, I guess, our AMI publication policy, which I think
Right.
states X number of versions, and then
Okay. Yep.
wipe them down. I think. Not that it costs a lot of money in the grand scheme of running the Kubernetes project on AWS. So
Yeah. Okay.
I don't mind. I don't mind looking at the automation.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Sorry, yeah, I don't mind looking at this automation.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is I think right now feature work's kind of slowed down a little bit, but this would be a super valuable um, bang for the buck. Because at the very least it keeps CI going. If we can keep stuff up to date. Um, I mean, more future looking, it would be great if at some point we can have CI jobs that are informing and pulling latest cluster API and latest cube branches and building there so we can get earlier signal for what's going to break. But that's, I think that's much later work. That's not immediate. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
So I'm also thinking that it sort of feeds into what Julio was saying was if we want it in our doc saying we support up to Kubernetes version B132, maybe the same thing that we say is the maximum we support, that also kicks off the automation for building new AMIs if they're not there. And that literally it should then all be automatic. So it should be saying, oh, well, actually, Kappa project now supports 133, and then docs are updated, and AMIs are built and stuff like that automatically.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could also, I think these are defined in config files somewhere. Like we have the, was it metadata.yaml file? Um, not that.
Yeah, that's mostly for the CAPI mapping to CAPI.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so not that one. But I know that information is sitting around in various configuration files. So maybe if we could relocate it or bubble it up into something that would automatically kick things off. I think there's even, yeah, a versions.make. Like, does it have Kubernetes? No. But we might be able to get the Kubernetes version from the CAPI version, or yeah, the CAPI version. Um,
You're thinking of the end-to-end config. We have the
yes, I
Kubernetes
am.
versions in there, don't we? Yeah, yeah. In fact, actually, that's probably a good place to pull it from, really, because we should be testing with those versions as well, shouldn't we?
Yeah. That is in data. Yeah, this guy. This is definitely something, yeah, we could definitely pull this out, this variable, um, and use that to use this kind of as the source of truth for documentation, since it'll reflect what's tested, and use it as a source of truth for building AMIs because it's what we'll need in order to run the tests.
Good. Yep.
Okay, that in that case it might warrant, like I said, maybe pulling this out or renaming it, uh, the file, because it's then not just for E2Es, but I think having a single place that defines that would be super helpful. Okay. Um, I think that, let me double check. I think that wraps up the agenda. Um, okay, yeah,
Yeah, I
Julio, you
added,
added a couple things.
yeah, just some things I remembered. Uh, First, is there any reason not to use a home local bean instead of user local so that sudo is not necessary in the docs? I'm not sure if that binary is invoked by anything directly or if that's safe to move.
Which binary specifically?
In the docs, both cluster cuttle and cluster AWS ADM are instructed to be moved to user local bean and with sudo. So
Got it.
for least privilege, I thought we could upwards. The first one is an install command, and the second one is a move command. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, user local bean.
I I don't see any problem with that. I can't speak to the historic reasons for using user local
Yeah.
instead of dot user local.
Are those binaries invoked by like exec for by the operator or something? I don't know.
Um, these should be client side only, so I don't believe so. But Richard, you raised your hand.
Yeah, they're not there just invoked by a user manually to perform an admin task. I guess it might be worth just adding a note in there saying if a single user is only ever going to use it, then it's easier to copy it to drop local bin, or if you want to share it,
Cool.
copy it to user local bin.
Cool. And the next thing would be that I recently leaked credentials by having them committed to the file by accident. So I was thinking if we could remove credentials from files always. And one of them is the tilt file. And I'm not sure if that's at all possible, but might be a good idea. That would be on the dev guide.
Yeah, that is definitely that's a tricky one because the tilt file lives in your cluster API checkout. Um, but it references your Cappy checkout or Kappa checkout, sorry. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, here. So what I have been doing for this is this this is going to be different based on your OS, but I use the one password CLI. Um, and so what this does is I can save the secrets into my vault on one password and
Mm,
use one password run to grab the environment variable out of one password.
I
So you
see.
see here that it's pointing to a string that's in the vault. And when you use OP run, it runs it in a contained environment that doesn't write the credentials to disk. So that's how I've been getting around it. Um, I
Cool.
think other password managers can do a similar thing. Um, that's I think that's what I would recommend, but I'm sure other folks have other things they've tried.
Yeah, I'll check that anyway.
Yeah, it's worth noting one password is a paid service, but there's
Yeah.
stuff like Bitwarden, I think is
Mhm.
a similar one. And KeePass, I think.
Cool. I'll be working on that later. Yeah.
Cool. Richard, you had your hand up.
So the other thing is if we talk about the base 64 encoded credentials here. Um, if they're in the tilt settings file in the CAPI folder, that is in the git ignore as well. So I normally put the credentials into the tilt settings file,
Cool.
and then that should be ignored. So you shouldn't accidentally commit them.
Good. I'll check the file names and see if they match the ignore and document accordingly. Thanks, guys.
Okay, cool. I like the tilt settings being get ignored. That's probably more generic way of doing this. All right. Anything else last minute for the agenda? Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you all in 2 weeks.
See you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks for hosting, Nolan.
Bye, guys.
Yep. Bye.
Cheers.